sweating to death and looking all sorts of, having an out of body experience. So, welcome to Sugar Plums. We're going to do chapter one. And as I think of things to share with you guys, I will. So, welcome to Storytime with Constantine. Today we have Reaper Constantine joining us, and we're going to do Sugar Plums today. Let's do this. The sugar quickly boiled, and Bob rushed to pull the pot off the fire. It was too late. The sugar had started to burn, and there was nothing he could do to save it. Caramel wasn't something that was hard to make. And in all the years experimenting in the kitchen, he was a pro at it. But he was struggling today. He dumped the pot in the center of the large sink and took a deep breath. Bob ran his fingers through his hair. The fifth time that morning. He was sure his sandy blonde hair was now a giant mess, just like his apron. Caramel spots competed for center stage next to the burned spots. He wasn't sure how they even got there. A cool breeze came from the open door in the back of the cabin and brought in the scent of pine trees. The view from the cabin window was breathtaking. Large trees gave the property a feeling of privacy. The small stream in the back was pleasant, cooling the surrounding areas. The team wasn't that far from their home base in Texarkana, less than 2 hours away, and maybe just over 90 miles. But Bob felt like they had transported to a different time and place. Constantine, this little friend, the 5-year-old trainer for all the Death's interns, and of course Death's ride or die, had dragged Reapers and Core Team, as he was calling them, to Hutchertown in Oklahoma. Hutchertown was a favorite tourist destination for everyone who wanted to go glamping in an authentic style. Their small cabin Constantine rented was bigger than most houses in Texarkana. The place had 8 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, a game room, multiple sitting areas, a tennis court, and even a jacuzzi. So for anybody who is not from the area, yes, Hochatown actually has cabins of this nature. You can go clamping all you want and actually get lost in here. So Constantine had a brilliant idea. And as a 5-year-old, all you got, just put some question marks in Constantine's brilliant ideas, but at least you have to realize he has great taste when it comes to finding locations. So, and if you're in the area and want to check it out, highly recommend it. The cabins are gorgeous. So let's go down this path. Here we go. The place, okay. Bob could never afford a place like this, even with his new earnings as stat center. He examined the woodwork in the living room and the massive custom-made table and shook his head. Who was he kidding? Until he started working for Death and the Reaper's crew, he barely had enough money to stay in one of those cheap motels in Texarkana. He'd been homeless for years. This wasn't just luxury, it was extravagant. But he hated to admit it. The kitchen was a dream come true. The place came with multiple ovens, 2 sets of sinks, a fridge large enough to fit for a whole family of 12. To add to the madness, Constantine had asked the realtor to stock the kitchen with every major appliance available. Bob ran his hands over the brand new food processor he was battling with. Didn't matter his new creation wasn't coming together. He had all the equipment he needed and time. Will the boss mind if I renovate the kitchen at Reapers? Bob asked himself. The kitchen was cozy, just the right size by the second floor loft of Reaper's Inc. It just wasn't big enough for all the new gadgets Bob wanted to buy. It could use more room, but there was no way to expand without tearing down the bedrooms. Beep, beep. The sound of the kitchen timer brought him back to reality. While a new kitchen would be amazing, when was he ever home now? Maybe I could upgrade Union Station's common area. Bud went back to musing as he pulled the spices he had brought from the house. Sure, if I wanted to get murdered by Chef or playing his field. Well, he was technically in charge of Haven, the only supernatural community in the world. He wasn't really in charge of certain areas of Union Station. Angela, the resident doctor, ran the clinic and morgues. Chef handled the entire food department in the building. Pipsy took care of the assignments, and even Shorty oversaw the purchase of all materials. Am I really in charge? Bob cracked his neck, trying to focus back on the problem ahead. You will not defeat me, he told the bowls of spices he was briskly mixing. A piece of paper with his new recipe glued to the ground as another light breeze entered the kitchen. Bob reached forward, dumping some of the spices on the table. Not again, he muttered. Bob wasn't used to the cool weather in Oklahoma. When they left Texarkana that morning, it was still in the 90s by mid September. He expected similar temperatures and had opened the sliding door to give him some fresh air. The air was too fresh and too playful for his taste. Having too much fresh air was affecting him. Shaking his head, he placed the spice bowl on top of the recipe with the counter. It would not defeat him. This is not a hard recipe, Bob reminded himself. Not that hard to make sugar plums. Yet he was trying extra hard to give it a unique spin. Let's blend these babies and see. Sugar plums, here we come. Placing his hand on top of the food processor, he hit the power button. By the way, I did have to do some research because I have never done sugar plums in my life. It honestly did not look that hard. But I really liked the whole title of sugar plums. So then I had to go down this whole rabbit hole of like, how do you make sugar plums? Because, once you have this idea, you have to commit it. I was like, I have no clue. I have never made sugar plums in my life. So before I decided to go down this rabbit hole, I should have said, I should have picked a recipe that I actually knew how to make. But hey, we committed. So eventually I will make some sugar plums for you guys and see if it turns out nearly as good as Bob. But he is struggling because I don't know how to make sugar plums. So the two of us were struggling together. So here we are. Placing his hands on the top of the food processor, he hit the power button. The sound bounced off the walls while the machine vibrated in his hand. He wasn't sure what to expect from his concoction of dried fruits, but at least he knew his food processor's work. After a few minutes of pulsing, Bob opened the lid to inspect the mixture. You're doing it wrong, a female voice said next to him. Jesus! Bob screamed at the woman, dropping the lid and holding his chest. Where did you come from? The woman took a step back. A small smile played on her lips. She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed at the food processor, scrunching her nose, and said, Your spices are off. What? I thought you could hear me, she told him. Bob glanced between the woman and his creation. Her skin reminded him of perfect made caramel, like the one he was aiming for earlier. Silky black hair that he wanted to run his fingers through. A weird sensation that had never crossed his mind before. Yet he couldn't stop staring at her chocolate-colored eyes with hints of gold that sparkled with mischief. She smelled of cocoa and cinnamon, and Bob found himself pulled towards her. Do you actually know what you're doing in this kitchen? She asked, snapping Bob at his trance. Excuse me? So Bob is a designated cook for the team and does not appreciate people making fun of his cooking. So if he had a crush, that might not be working out if she keeps going down this path. So let's see. Oh, you can hear me. She pouted, her lips and glared down at Bob, something that was absurd since she was almost a foot shorter than he was. Is that a superpower every woman has? Bob shook his head. What are you talking about? She glanced around, arching an eyebrow. How are you looking down at me while having to look up? That doesn't even make any sense. I have asked the same question because my mom's really good at doing that to me. So for any ladies in here, please let me know because that is a superpower. I don't think I have mastered, but I'm working on it. So let me know how you guys are doing it. I'm not doing either of those things. She poked him in the chest. You're not that much taller than I am. Bob chuckled. Lady, I'm 6'2". You're what, maybe 5'2", with heels and 100 pounds soaking wet? You're tiny. Eyes wide, she placed her hands on her hips and leaned closer to Bob. I'm 5 feet 4 inches, thank you very much. P.S. I also know ladies who are that short that those 2 inches make a difference. So Bob might not survive his commentary. And if you guys agree with me, let me know, because I'm pretty sure she's not going to have it this way. I feel bad for Bob, but here we go. Oh, sorry about that, Bob mocked her, but didn't move away. You're still tiny. She was still taller than his dear friend Shorty, but Bob would not inform her about that. He was not planning to lose this argument, even when he did not know what they were arguing about. You're just changing the subject because you don't want to admit. You're wrong about that. She pointed at the mixture in the food processor. I'm not wrong. According to the recipe, it's supposed to look like that. Bob picked at his recipe, but she just rolled her eyes. Who makes sugar plums in a food processor? Smart people, he informed her. And the pot in the sink? Bob turns toward the sink and glared at the destroyed caramel. Are you, anyways, and why are you here? Who are you talking to? As his voice came from the second floor landing. Bob snapped his head back, but the woman was gone. He spun around in circles before facing his best friend. Do you need to see her? Her? Isis leaned over the railing, her silver irises shone in the sunlight. Are you seeing ghosts? Not a far-fetched question to ask. All of Death's interns and her two reapers could see ghosts. They could also touch them and interact with them like a living being. Have you ever known a ghost to have a scent? Isis closed her eyes. From his viewpoint on the first floor, Bob couldn't read her expression. He knew her well enough to recognize when she was scanning her memories. And those of Death were the answer. Isis Black was Death's main reaper, blessed with many of her maker's powers and abilities. She wasn't technically human anymore, but she wasn't dead. Isis had always been beautiful, with a milk complexion, soft black hair. After her transformation, she was stunning. Her silver eyes, the trademark of every reaper, were the first sign people saw that made her more than just human. But her friendly disposition, love for humanity had not changed. If anything, it was stronger. Bartholomew, Death's ward and Isis' adopted brother, was the other living reaper in existence. To some extent, Bob was glad that there were only two of them. That much power in one being was terrifying. Fine, you got me, Isis finally said. I can't think of a single case of a ghost having a scent. Dead bodies reek of decay, but not their souls. If not a ghost, then who was she? Good question. Bob faced the open door. I didn't hear her enter or leave. Isis tossed her hair over her shoulders and hauled herself over the railing. She landed effortlessly on the ground floor, Bob winced. He had seen Isis and Bartholomew do things like that countless of times, but it still made his stomach turn. While Isis was his best friend, the reason he had his new life, he still saw her as his little girl. The feeling of protecting her always was there, even now that she was the one who could protect him. Is that necessary? He pointed at the landing. It's so much faster, she replied. What's for lunch? Iris inspected all the containers on the counter. No idea. She pointed at the dishes. Then what were you making? I'm trying to spice up a sugar plum recipe. Bob pulled the recipe from under the spice bowl. Why? Isis stuck her finger in the spice and tasted it. For the Great Reaper's Bake-Off! Bob smiled and spread his hand over his head. Isis frowned at him. She wasn't as tall as he was, but at least 5 feet 8 inches and didn't need to look up too much to meet his guys. What am I missing? She asked finally. We're hosting the first bake-off of this Christmas. Isis checked her watch. It's September 17th. Why are you working on recipes now? Is this why you're so frazzled? Because I'm the MC for the event and none of you can cook enough to save your lives? Ouch! Calm down, Paul Hollywood. There's no need to be that brutal on us. Isis raised her hands in mock surrendering. I'm not taking chances. There's no way I'm allowing any of you to make us look bad. Bob continued, ignoring her. We will practice until you all can create a decent recipe that will blow the judge's mind. You read my mind. Constantine's voice filled the air. Isis glanced around the kitchen island, searching for the cat. Constantine strolled into the house through the open door and jumped into the island. Bob shook his head. He was used to their boss's antics. What any other cat, Bob would have lost his mind having him march around the kitchen counters. But Constantine was magical. Never shed and could also kill it with his claws. No need to throw a tantrum. I have a horrible feeling we're not talking about the same thing, Isis interrupted her former guardian. Training, Constantine announced in delight. Definitely not the same thing, she shook her head. I think I will enjoy Bob's boot camp better. I need a snack. In the fridge, grab the tray of fruit, Bob pointing at the large steel appliance. It still amused him that the Reapers, even Constantine, enjoy food that much. None of them needed for actual substance. The reapers could last 2 or even 3 weeks with no need to eat. Bob suspected Constantine could last even longer. Except they all maintained a regular eating schedule. Isis had admitted it reminded her of humanity, and she didn't want to lose that. You're my hero, she informed him as she placed a large platter filled with cuts of fruits and cheeses on the counter. I will never complain. After years of being hungry, he loved feeding his new family. Can we focus here? Constantine demanded, pointing at one of his enormous of them. Constantine had the power to change his size. This morning, he was as big as a Maine Coon, and his dark stripes were glistening in the light. Do I want to? Isis asked before popping a piece of strawberry in her mouth. We will host the first Internal Olympics. Both Bob and Isis were silent after Constantine's proclamation. Took Isis another piece of fruit popped into her mouth. Nothing? No comments? I still like Bob's idea better, Isis pointed at her friend. What's your idea? Constantine glared at Bob as he moved towards the fruit tray. The Great Reaper's Bake-Off? Bob informed him. Said Constantine with a mouthful of cheese. I like the read of that. How much TV have you two been watching? Isis pointed between the two with a piece of cheese. Because this is a lot. You know it'll be fun, Bob told her. I don't know about fun. Isis was now biting. Maybe tasty, but do we really need an intern Olympics? Are all interns competing? Our newest intern in Europe struggled to go up 2 flights of stairs. That's the best part. We can face off against the other horsemen's interns. Constantine was ready to clap for joy if he had hands. How is that fair? We have the most intern out of all the horsemen. Isis pushed her point. No, we don't. Pestilence has the most. Constantine struck out his tongue. Rude, she replied. She might have 10. But seriously, are you expecting 3 men over 70 years old to be a physical competition? They're all lab rats that barely see the sun. Besides, Eugene and maybe 2 more. They will die. Isis has a point, Bob joined in. Besides, how many events do you want everyone to take part in? We don't have that. We don't have the most organized group of interns either. Death had interns in every continent. The recruiting process was not the most conventional one. Isis and Bartholomew were working hard to change the process, since most of the interns inherited their jobs because of the ultimate demise of their predecessor by their hands. It was common knowledge that Constantine trained his interns hard, and they eventually became pretty athletic. Olympic material? They were not. Katrina will destroy us all, Isis added. Katrina was Moore's intern and the ultimate super soldier. That's not even counting her gifts from her horsemen. Couldn't we start with something smaller? Fewer events, maybe? Bob asked. Bob knew his boss well enough to know that changing Constantine's mind was almost impossible, especially when he was that excited. Less? The cat asked softly. The Olympic Games have tons of events, Bob went on quickly. Maybe we should start with 2 or 3. Interesting. Constantine scratched his head and then stopped. Yes. Oh no. What? Isis rolled her eyes. We will do the first ever intron triathlon. Constantine jumped to his pals. This will be perfect. Hurry and get dressed. Meet you outside an hour. Time to train. Really? Isis pointed a piece of cheddar at Bob in defiance. Couldn't you have said 1? Or even better, convince him we should do bowling. Do you even like bowling? No, and neither do you, Isis reminded him. But I like triathlons even less. We're going to die. We're stuck in the middle of the woods for a week playing hell. It's not a week. We're leaving on Sunday, and it's already Wednesday, Bob tried to cheer her up. Worst week ever, Isis informed him. You remember mandatory fun from your army days, right? This is worse. Isis took a few more pieces of cheese before heading back to her bedroom to change. Both Isis and Bob were army veterans. Bob couldn't help smiling at her. There was another piece of their history they had in common. And he adored her for it. She never made him feel weird about his awkwardness. Instead, she embraced it. Even in a week of mandatory fun, Isis will make it work. Strangest family reunion ever, Bob told himself, still smiling. It's going to be an interesting week. So, my dear friends, that is chapter one of Sugar Plums and Death Intern. So, basically, if you could have the worst family vacation ever, this would be it. Interns all around. Constantine wants to do a team building campaign triathlon, which, by the way, for a cat who's never done any of this, maybe somebody should have talked him out of it. Bob still wants to do the great interns bake off. By the way, the reason I really wanted to do that is eventually I'm going to do a great interns bake off book. So in the next year or so, probably not this year because literally it's June and my mind is not getting there emotionally or fast enough. But we will have a book for Christmas or sometime in September for Christmas that they would do the great interns bake off. That also means if you guys have any recipes you want me to test in the meantime, send them my way. At least suggestions for recipes, because we will have to come up with this whole entire who's going to have this competition. So it'll be cookbook slash Great British Bake Off kind of competition. I have no idea, but it sounded like a good idea when I put this together last year. It was amazing. So if you're interested in finding out how the worst family vacation happens to end up with interns, check out Sugar Plums and This Intern. And hopefully you guys enjoy that because I really had a great time. It does end in a semi-happy ending compared to all of my other ones. So for everyone who was very mad and upset about Curse by Fur, I apologize. Sorry, not sorry. But this one is much better. So this is my redemption book to save you. See, Liz will love the competition. Okay, I need Liz to send me some recipes that I can try. That is the guy. So you guys need to send me some stuff that I can experiment so we can put in this book. Because ideally, I should try these recipes before I decide to put them in the book. So we don't have the whole sugar plum disaster. So yes, let me know what you guys think. The goal is probably not this year because it takes me some time to experiment. Maybe put some pictures in here, whatever we come up with. So let me know what you guys think. I have a couple of friends who are sending me recipes because they thought it was pretty funny. We'll see what we can do. So we will be doing the Great Reapers Bake Off. Don't know what that means, but we're working on that. And in the meantime, if you guys want to hang out, have some fun with Sugar Plums, truly enjoy what horrible family reunions can be when you stick a bunch of supernatural beings in the middle of Oklahoma hotel. This is it. And there is a dead body. So if for you guys that, there has to be something exciting else besides Constantine torturing our poor guys. So thank you so much for joining me. I will be back next week. I know it's the 4th of July, so we might do 4th of July celebration. I don't know if I have a 4th of July book. So we will see what we'll do for celebrations, and we will be back. So tons of blessings, tons of love. Stay cool, stay inside, don't burn. And thank you for joining me. Bye, guys. I'll see you next week.